All right, let's jump right into something kind of weird but totally fascinating. We're going to look at a piece of ancient advice, like really ancient. We're talking 1400 years old, for a problem you've probably faced yourself.
Okay, so picture this. It's a beautiful day. You're outside just relaxing with a nice cold drink. You take a sip, you look down, and yup, there it is. A little fly has decided your drink is its own personal swimming pool.
So what do? Come on, be honest. Is it an immediate nope, this whole drink is getting tossed? Or are you the type to just, fish it out and pretend it never happened? We all have our go-to move for this, right?
Well, what if I told you that there's a 1400-year-old text that gives a super specific instruction for this exact moment? And trust me, it's probably not what you're thinking. Not even close.
Okay, so this instruction, it comes from a specific religious narration, one that's actually known as the Hadith of the Fly.
So yeah, you heard that right. It says if a fly lands in your drink, you should push it all the way under, dip it completely, and then take it out. The reason? Because apparently one wing has the disease, but the other one has the cure, the antidote.
Now, for anyone who might not be familiar, let's just quickly define what a hadith is. It's basically a recorded saying or tradition of the Prophet Muhammad. Think of it this way. Along with the Quran, these texts are a huge source of guidance in Islam.
And look, this isn't from some obscure, forgotten text. This specific hadith comes from Sahih al-Bukhari. Now, that's a big deal. For many, many Muslims, this is one of the most trusted and authentic collections of hadith out there, so it carries a lot of weight.
Okay, so how do people make sense of this today? As you can imagine, it's not quite as simple as just doing it. People have looked at this through a few different lenses over the centuries. We can really break down the interpretations into three main categories. First, looking at it from a standpoint of practical necessity. Second, understanding its religious significance. And third, well, reflecting on it with what we know from modern science.
So let's take that practical view first. You have to remember, in 7th century Arabia, water was incredibly precious. You didn't just throw it away. From the religious angle, it's often seen as a sign of prophetic knowledge, this idea of knowing something about the unseen world, that one wing carries a sickness and the other carries the cure.
Then you bring in the modern science, and things get really interesting and complicated. On one hand, scientists have found that flies do carry antimicrobial stuff on their bodies to protect themselves. But on the other hand, it's an absolute fact that they are covered in nasty pathogens. So while you have this kind of mind-blowing parallel to the ancient text, Modern Hygiene 101 says, maybe don't drink that.
And this whole tension, this back and forth between an ancient text and modern science, it's not just about this one fly. Not at all. This actually cracks open the door to a whole universe of much bigger questions.
Yeah, this conversation is so much bigger than just a fly and a cup of water. This is just one example of an ancient text describing the natural world in a way that makes us stop and think when we look at it through a modern scientific lens. It sparked debates that have lasted for centuries.
Take this, for example. There's a verse in the Quran that talks about a traveler who finds the sun setting in a muddy spring. Now, what does that mean? Is it poetry? Is it ancient cosmology? That one verse has led to so much discussion.
Or how about this one? A passage that describes mountains as being like pegs, holding the earth steady so it doesn't shift. People have drawn parallels from that to modern geology, to the concept of isostasy, where mountains have roots deep in the crust.
And then there's maybe the most famous one of all. A verse that says, the heavens and the earth were once all joined together as one thing before being split apart. I mean, you can see why people immediately make a connection to the Big Bang Theory.
So, as you can probably tell, every single one of these verses is a huge topic on its own, and that's exactly where we're headed next. Because just mentioning them like this, it really doesn't do them justice. I mean, each one is its own tangled web of history, theology, language, and science. They absolutely deserve a proper deep dive. So, in our upcoming explainers, that's what we're going to do. We're going to tackle these head-on. We'll explore passages about astronomy and the cosmos, creation and embryology, and geology, and stories of a great flood. It really all boils down to this one massive question, doesn't it? When we come across these ancient texts that talk about the natural world, how are we supposed to read them? Do we take them literally, as a metaphor, as advice that only made sense in its own historical context, or something else entirely? It's just a fascinating and sometimes tricky place to be, right at that crossroads of faith, history, and science.